trigger on anyone, but we want to know what our options are. Thank you, Sheila.
Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road.
Mike's off.
Pull out that one. Better? You can hold it.
Hold it, please hold it.
Oh, that's why it's going on?
Yeah.
Are we on or off?
Off.
We're on now. Okay. Okay. So, on the same topic, why did the major contract or agreement here not go out to bid? Why does it just go to residents now?
Mazer is on retainer. They were appointed in January at reorganization to be consulting engineers, so this is simply a scope of work that's issued pursuant to that procurement that's already been concluded.
Okay, and can we be provided with names of other towns where they have done this type of analysis?
I think you could file a public records request for their original RFP back in January, which would provide you with, the information on the vendor on retainer. I'm sure their website's very detailed too.
Okay, the recreational facility, assuming that gets done, is that something that's just for Holmdel or open to the public? What's the thinking on that?
What was the question?
The rec facility, if it does get done, is that just for Holmdel or is it open to the public? Is it?
It's such a hypothetical question. We don't know where it's going to be. We don't know what the size of it is. We don't know what kind of sports is going to be in there. It's just, let's wait till the
You
consultants
don't know
come
what your
back.
intentions are?
No, let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's get these
Well, I
study
don't
done.
think it's cart before the horse.
Yes, it
It's
is.
a
You
big
know it is.
concept you're going for, and
We have
I
to
think
bond
what you're
for it. We're
thinking-
going to do a whole presentation here. When we do, if we decide to move forward with it, you'll have plenty of opportunity to ask those questions.
okay. So no preview. Okay. Is SNF Nursery, is that septic or sewer over there?
That's septic right now,
Yeah.
but I believe they may be able to tie into the Bellworks pressure line, maybe.
Okay, so this is a
A
preview. So do we
hypothetical.
think we can change from septic to sewer there without affecting the rest of the town? Only because years ago I was here on behalf of Country Woods and it was like, no, because that's going to destroy Holmdel.
That's correct.
So that's something maybe Major has to consider
Absolutely.
also. And one comment with the, on the location of where the firefighters live and the analysis as to where you might want a firehouse. I just want to make the point that the volunteers could change, so where they live is kind of like a fluid
Right, but for
concept.
now, that's where they are. That's the
Yeah.
problem. So for now, they live here.
Right, but that could change, so I don't know that we want to put a building based on
You could always
that.
find volunteers.
Right, but that's going to be part of it. You can talk to each firefighter. And again, we might have paid ones. We'll see.
That would be nice.
And they jump on the truck and they're at your house.
Okay, more on the legal point, Mike, I think if this letter is indeed being signed off on as is, but you've agreed that you don't want to look at Cross Farm or another location on here, that needs to be amended. You can't just sign off on a letter giving them direction to look at properties, yet you're telling us you don't want them to look at those properties.
That'll be at the discretion of the township committee. Obviously, they approve that document as the scope of work. If they decide to take any further
Right,
actions,
so this is a legal agreement. I think it should say what you want it to say, and it's not a major change, so I don't see why you would not put that in writing.
Thank you for your comments, Paul.
Okay, one more
That's 3
question.
minutes.
That's my 3 minutes?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, Janet Easy, 7 Country Squire Lane, Holmdel, New Jersey. First, just to add to...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Janet Easy, 7 Country Squire Lane, Holmdel, New Jersey. First, to add to what Barbara just said, I am not a lawyer. I know she is, I know you are. It just doesn't sound right to me as a citizen that you people are approving something that has something incorrect in there. So I would hope that you would amend it. I heard Michael Collins say it's up to your discretion, but you're signing something that you told us is not correct. So that was just one comment. The other thing is, I must say, I am confused here. I've come to a lot of these meetings, not all of them, so I may have missed something. But I was here during a lot of the discussions about the recreation facilities. And I have here the recreation survey results. And question 9 says, does the township currently have an adequate number of active recreation facilities? 68% of the people said yes, 15% said no. Question 10, should the township consider the improvement, development, or expansion of active recreation facilities? 48% said no, 27% said yes. I was here for the presentation that I guess it was T&M Associates gave, and they talked about a multi-use facility. And at that time, many people got up and said, there's nothing in the survey that would warrant all that money being spent on a multi-use facility. And in fact, I think you all decided not to accept their results. So fast forward this, I have missed a few meetings. What happened here? Why are you talking about a multi-use facility and looking into it? If the survey, which represented a lot of people, they went through all those statistics about how many people responded, why are we doing this? Why are you spending this much money or considering spending this much money if it was something that seemed so blatantly rejected by the people who responded to the survey? So what am I missing here? When did you guys decide to look into a multi-use facility?
So first of all, you commented about their report. We accepted their report, we did not accept their recommendations.
Okay, thanks.
So I just want to clarify that. This has been going on for 2+ years, where we're hearing a lot of input from residents that come here every 2 weeks. We get emails, we get letters, we get recommendations, we get requests from all the user groups. So I think the 5 of us up here are receptive to doing something for recreation. And we're really just continually gathering information. We haven't, you see tonight, we bonded for everything except for recreation improvements. So we're going to continue to do that.
It just seems to me, as a resident of Holmdel, that survey went out to every single household in this town. Anyone had the opportunity to fill that out. It's just like voting. When you vote for an election nationally, the people who vote are the ones who have the voice. The people who don't vote don't, unless they're lobbyists and they go and they talk behind everyone's back, and that's really not supposed to happen. So it just seems to me, and I don't have any political leanings here at all, it's just, I submitted my response to the survey, as did apparently a lot of other people, and it said one thing. And I'm just hearing that you guys are doing something else. So it's disturbing to me.
Thank you for your comment.
Francine Campus, 2 Country Squire Lane. I have just a couple of comments. Just on the one thing about the survey. If the paper originally said that they were going to look at...
Is it off?
It's on.
If the letter or the agreement originally said 4 places to look at, and they're only going to look at 2, then maybe the price should come down from $28,000.
Agreed.
Because there's going to be less manpower used to look at only 2 sites. So if that's the case, then it would mean that you should change the agreement and amend it to only 2 sites and then look for a reduction. My other thing is, and I might have read this wrong, I looked up this afternoon about Green Acres funding and the program, and it specifically says it was instituted to preserve farmland and outdoor recreation. Okay? One of the things it said it doesn't fund is an indoor recreation building. So I might have been reading that wrong, but I'm pretty sure it said that. So I'm just saying, I guess you guys know the things better than I do, but I wouldn't count on Green Acres. And the other thing that bothers me is if we use Green Acres funding, and that means people from all of the state can use that indoor facility. can't limit who's going to use it. So I'm deadly against that.
So let me just answer your first question.
Yeah.
So there's been, I made a comment about there's been improvements in these facilities over the many years that they've started being built. The one caveat that could potentially allow you to qualify for green acres is that the entire sides of this facility open up. So you literally becomes almost like, in very good weather, almost becomes like an outdoor facility. And again, I haven't done it. They've done it in the past in other areas, and it was, I wouldn't go too deep in the green acres. This is on township-owned property. I highly doubt we're going to convert township property to green acres and open up, those potential issues. But it's something that we're trying to do as cost effective as possible. That we're just looking at every option and learning about it. It's a learning process. I've never done this before. I don't think any of you guys have. So we're going to be learning along the way, and then you guys will be educated with us as we go through the process.
Because I feel like I read it that way.
No.
And just, I keep repeating myself, so I'll say this quick. What was good about looking and doing a multi-use facility at the swim club, it would be improving something that we already have that has been talked about over the years as needing improvement. And instead of leaving something that needs to be fixed and not spending any money on it and spending a lot of money on something else. And I just think it's not wise. Mr. Hines pointed out, cost of money is going to go up, so if we engage in something now, it's going to cost us a lot of money to go through this and do it right and then to maintain it afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Francine. I think I can close the public comment. Close public comment. See you now.
Jay, 18 language line. Not to keep going here, but Greg, I was here when you proposed that ordinance. So how did Cross Farm Park get into this document? Because Greg's vehemently saying he didn't propose it. You're saying before it wasn't in it. We've now showed proof it's in it. You're all saying it's not consideration. So are we insane or something going wrong? Donna, how did Cross Farm Park get into the ordinance if Greg didn't suggest it?
Not an ordinance.
What is it? The proposal. Well, signed and executed proposal. How did it get in there? Greg, am I correct? Again, you did not put it in there.
I thought I was pretty clear on the record, right? I said the facility was the swim test club only because we potentially did work there 2 years ago with a third party that was going to come in and take over our tennis courts and rebuild them and put domes over them. So in the disrepair they were there already, I thought this was a potential, since they're no longer involved in it, this was a potentially good location because one, it offered township-owned property, footprint that could be able to support a multi-use facility, and with infrastructure in place, parking, utilities, locker room, bathroom, like I said last time, there was no other facility I thought would have made sense. I think Thompson suggested that behind the post office. We looked at that. It was really tight and would not support the footprint. And then the other land we own was up and up, right? That we own, right? Not green acres we own, but that seems to have a lot of issues. It doesn't have the same attributes that we have over at the Swimming Tennis Club, and based on the potential partnership with the Turnpike Authority, I think we could accommodate parking and ease access and be able to support the traffic flow. So really, it's a great location. I think it makes sense. Beyond that, I can't tell you. I was pretty straightforward with the location, the reasons why I felt it was the best location.
Okay, respectfully, he took a lot of time, so I'd like credit for part of that time.
No.
What do you mean, no?
Let's go down to the question. I have one comment I'd like to add.
Sure.
You need to be a little realistic here. I understand what you're reading, and I understand your sensitivity, and I know you like to put a lot of things out on the Save Holmdel Village. But an indoor facility the size of something that we've kind of generally described here tonight is going to require a fair amount of restroom facilities inside. You can't do that at Cross Farms Park.
Then why is it in the executed
I don't
document?
know the
which will
answer.
consider-
Greg's
You don't know
answered
the
that
answer. Greg
twice.
doesn't know the answer. Donna's not
We'll look
answering.
into it
Where
for
did
you
you
tomorrow.
come from?
No,
Well, you missed my question.
but
You were-
let me just jump in. I think I know.
As long as I'm not going to lose time for it.
No. What's the big deal to me? I think we all agree that we don't want this at Cross Farm. Am I correct?
Then take it out of the study.
Take it out, it's fine by me. I might want to do something else at Cross Farm, but
Rocco, this.
I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, but unfortunately, Rocco, and this gets to my greater point.
Start the timer. Thank you.
Thank you. We have this recurring sickness in this governing body with this obsession to developing Cross Farm Park. Likely because the private clubs operate there, and when they're there, they can control the facilities. I was there at a nice event this past week. I stood in the middle of those soccer fields for the first time when they were active. I was in awe at the expansiveness of that facility, and the clubs that use it should be thrilled that they have that. Further development of Cross Farm Park, this obsession that dominates this township committee and administration in this town, where stuff is completely hijacked, like this document, like that recreation survey. You could smile all you want. This is on your watch. Do you know how many people in town, Mr. Critelli, are saying, what is going on under your leadership? Is this another thing being hijacked? This document was hijacked. That recreation survey by T&M was hijacked. There needs to be stability in this governing body. And speaking of that, Mr. Collins, we've talked about conflicts of interest with the COA process. Have you interviewed every one of the people up here and made sure they have no conflicts of interest with the COA properties that are under consideration?
You're entitled to make your public comment.
Well, it's a
really
question to you. Are you comfortable representing this township committee that these people have none of it, all of these people have
You
businesses?
asked several questions there, so let me answer. First
Okay.
off, I'm very comfortable representing this township committee. Glad to be representing my hometown here. When it comes to anything of the nature that you're talking about, anything of that type of nature, I would be having an attorney-client privileged conversation with my client, which is the governing body, so I would not be able to answer any of your questions here in
do you
public. So you
think-
can ask them, you're not going to get
Okay, my
answers.
question to you is, have you interviewed every township committee member on this body and made sure that in their personal or professional lives, they don't have specific conflicts of interest with any property owners under the code?
As I just said, anything of the nature that you're asking me about would be subject to attorney-client privilege. I could not confirm.
Well, isn't it
deny,
relevant if they're going to be deciding on which properties are used?
You could ask, you can continue to comment. You know I can't respond.
So we'll never know.
I gave you the response I could offer.
I don't understand your response.
And apparently you haven't been represented by an attorney before, because, you wouldn't want your attorney if there was anything that you were talking about.
So are you saying you believe that everyone on this committee does not have a conflict of interest in this code
I
problem?
just stated what I stated.
Okay, I guess
Let me
I'm
say
still
something.
confused. I know you're still, you've given it before.
And sometimes we get a little bit out of control, both of us. You have to agree to that, and I.
I know what you're going to say, you said it before, that you, when
As far
someone
as
needs
my
to be
knowledge, and I have
recused.
pretty good knowledge, anyone who's voting on anything with the COA plan has no, as far as I know, I'm not, Jag or Hoover, has no conflict of interest there.
But you may not know.
As far as what I know.
And I just
yeah,
hope-
How would I know?
I just hope as this
How would he
ongoing
know?
COA saga continues, we're doing it the right way and clean.
We are.
And I hope this sickening obsession with developing Cross Farm Park ends here tonight. The final thing is, do we have any update on JCP&L, Mr. Critelli? Any update on JCP&L? Because our distribution system in this town is falling apart.
No, sir. No update on that. We met with them and then we had to cancel the last meeting. But Jay, why do you think there's a sickness and an obsession? You
Why
said
do I think
twice.
there's a sickness?
What have we done to Cross Farms Park in the
I will
last
tell
few
you,
years?
real quickly, when the top lot idea came up, I stood here before this committee and said, this sounds like a Trojan horse to further developing Cross Farm Park. No, you're nuts, you're paranoid, Jay. That's exactly what happened. when the idea, Eric and his people said, we need to light those parking lots because it's a safety issue at night. I stood here.
Hold on. I gotta give you more time. Well, when you say my people, I want to understand who's my people. Because my people are worried about the safety of kids?
No.
My people are worried about the safety of kids?
No, don't start.
That's what it is.
You're pulling.
That's parking lights. Because kids have to walk to their cars. So be careful when you say Eric and his people.
We didn't fight that, Mr. Hahn.
Good.
But I stood here and said, that sounds like an attempt to light Crossbar Park. And Mr. Improvuto said, where do you get those ideas? You're paranoid. And you know what? 18 months later, he was the one that put the proposition to light the entire fields up. Okay? So there is an ongoing sickness to develop Crossbar Park.
Why is it a sickness? Why is it a sickness?
Why? Because
to
it
help kids?
hijacks.
If I want to lights on
hijacks.
Cross Farm, I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna tell you to your face.
Well, it hasn't been the
Hey,
case.
these 5 here make the decisions. You want to run for the seat? Here it is.
I don't
my
want the
friend.
seat.
You don't want it.
I don't want.
Please don't call it a sickness that we want to
After
give
that
kids
compelling
recreation.
disaster,
It's
I
not
could have had a seat,
sickness.
trust me.
You have a sickness. You have
No,
a sickness.
I don't have a
You, my
sickness.
friend.
You flip-flop
have a
every
sickness.
other meeting.
I don't
Please.
flip-flop, my friend.
Yes, you
Please
do.
sit
The
down.
record's replete with that.
Goodbye.
No, yeah.
You bring your
At some point, you
business
gotta let the history go, though, okay? Listen, the history's the history. At the end of the day, there's nothing up here about cross. There's no lights, there's no proposal, there's nothing.
Not now, Eric, but if you get all your people in like you're
My
working
people,
with this
my
election,
people.
that's
Here we go
exactly
with
where
my
you're
people.
going.
Here goes with my people. Jen, why don't you do something proactive? Stop being an obstructionist, okay?
I'm not an obstructionist.
You are an obstructionist. That's all you are, Jen. That's all you are. We come, we bring the drama, we do stuff for the theater, that's not good enough. What do you actually do in this town besides being an objectionist? You are an objectionist, that's it.
I try to uncover everything you've tried to do over the past few
Yeah,
years.
I haven't tried to do
And we've
anything
been
in the last 2 years.
quiet.
Nothing, Whatever.
Jay, thank you.
Shut up.
You want to speak? I'm sorry. Ken?
Kim G, 8 City Street. Tough act to follow. I think at one of the meetings, the mayor called me Mr. Rage, and I said, "You want the truth? You can't handle the truth." I'm going to repeat that again. But,
It wasn't this mayor, right?
no, it was this mayor, Mr. Rage. 2 quick things. Since Michael didn't want to give an attorney update, I'm going to do that on his behalf.
Okay, yeah, go please.
At the Trenton, at the BPU board meeting, the BPU did officially extend the deadline for MCRP to July 21st. So but the more interesting part is right after that, there was a Senate Budget and Appropriation Committee meeting. And some of you know that Senator Beckman O'Scannon is on that committee. And so when it was his turn to ask questions, we actually had the president of BPU as a witness to that committee. And he specifically asked him when would that decision be made. And so the president of the BPU, as a witness to the Senate committee, said that it will be done in the next 45 days. So that's an update that Michael said he wanted to give, but he wanted to give me the opportunity to speak. Second, well, most of you know, I've only recently attended a lot of these township committee meetings. So I don't have any axe to grind, for lack of a better word. So I just want to say, as fairly objectively as possible, first of all, I appreciate all the work that you guys do. I know that being on the township committee is not an easy task. At the same time, I recognize there are a lot of issues and concerns that a lot of residents have. And maybe sometimes the way they ask the question may not be the right way. But just listening to some of the past exchanges here, I just want to voice a concern I do have. If as part of this study, there are only 2 sites for this multi-use facility, I do believe that perhaps the engagement letter for that study should be reflected of exactly what Township Committee saying, so that rather than Crossville Park being listed when in fact it's on record saying that's not consideration. So, and I know in the past I've been involved with lawyers and legal documents and so on, so that's something that should throw out what it's worth. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Sir.
Hopefully I have the mic figured out. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Brian Foster, 4 Iron Hill Drive. we're in town about 6 years, and just to kind of touch on some of the comments some people made earlier, I guess about the survey and stuff. We didn't complete it. I don't recall seeing it. I don't know if my wife saw it. What I'll say is this evening, I'm fortunate enough that my office is in town. I got home a little bit after 6. I helped my wife cook dinner. I took 2 of our 4 kids up to bathe. I came back down, ate dinner with my family, and got out the door so I could be here at the meeting, so I could kind of be in the know. I come to most of the meetings. I'm a volunteer with the EMS service. I'm on the planning board. I coach 3 different sports with my kids. A lot of the parents in my position can't be here. It's not that we don't want to be here, it's that we have things going on at home. And the kids and raising them, which I believe a lot of the people here already raised their kids. Ours are from 3 to 9 years old. My home life, my kids are going to take priority over every single thing that goes on. Bear none. I'm going to come to these things as often as I can because I want to see what's going on. I want the town to develop. That was one of the reasons we moved here 6 years ago, is because of how beautiful the town is, what you could see. The 2 sites you mentioned, I think the swim club, I like the idea of more because F&F, I'll be honest, I like driving past it as I drive my youngest kid to preschool, and I like seeing the guys sometimes work the field. I like seeing things grow there. It's stuff you can talk to your kids about that you're not going to see in most of the towns that surround us. We're 30 minutes from New York City, 30 minutes from the beach. This is an amazing town. We're happy to be a part of it. We're trying to be involved. I'm trying to show my kids to be involved as much as I can to help this town continue to grow and change for the better. Those are my comments. There are hundreds others like me that can't make it here. It's not that they don't care. It's that they have other priorities and that they're taking care of those things. I'm here because I want to be here. I appreciate your guys' time. I know you guys take a beating on a lot of things. It's a thankless job, but thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Joe?
Joe Crowley, 15 Ely Road. Thank you to all the committee members for your work as always. So my understanding is that there's a proposal to investigate multi-use facility with a bubble. Actually, I guess 4 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago the meeting was canceled. 4 weeks ago, Mayor Patelli, you said you were talking about dusting off a proposal for SATs. So I like the idea of the multi-use facility, and well, I think support a lot of the sports. I think there's a need for additional facilities. So what I would like to see is a proposal similar to the one for the multi-use facility to investigate the possibility of a turf field at SATs, some accommodation for softball, either overlaying that turf field or a turf infield for softball, a turf infield for baseball, and also for youth softball and baseball. A multifunction turf field would address many school and youth sports, would not address youth baseball or softball. So I'd like to see something that is proposed to evaluate the swim club. There was a softball field there, assume it's still there, and investigate putting lights on that for the use of softball. So that softball has a lit field in addition to baseball in the town for youth. At the swim club, there was a softball field.
It could be made into something.
It's probably big enough for a softball field. Well, again, what I'm talking about is needs, which I've addressed with all of you guys through email and here. I think the proposal by Deputy Mayor Bontempo is a portion of that. My question is, when will we formally investigate these other possibilities that aren't addressed in that? I think the time, you know, it's now to start moving this forward.
I'll make a motion right now. Make a motion right now to investigate something at SATs, a multi-purpose field at SATs.
Okay, I'll second that motion. We'll discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's a couple of meetings going. Second, I think we discussed it now, right?
Well,
Second.
We should discuss it.
Discussed it, right. So A couple of meetings ago, I had mentioned that there's a lot of political and environmental hurdles with doing something at the SATS complex. While it is clear that there is a need for a facility or another turf field in town, there is a high demand for the Roby Field. But the environmental issues haven't been addressed. We haven't seen a user agreement. It's not controlled and owned by the township, so until we jump all those hurdles, I think the best decision is to move forward with what we're putting forth tonight, with Greg's proposal of the bubble.
I think if we're going to spend money, why not look at all the options? And at the end of the day, if there was an environmental concern, engineers should be able to tell us pretty quickly, and that would kill the project. If a user agreement has been pretty much talked about verbally with multitude members of the Board of Ed, there's zero objection. And politically, you've heard a number of people which I concur with, that are very anti-cross, but I thought that we're very open to doing something at SATS. And I think the concept of we being able to walk over, in addition, it's one of the few projects that solves the students, the student athletes, and also user groups, so it's a triple threat. So what is the danger? If we're going to spend money, why not get all the facts here? What's another few $1,000s to say, look, here's an option, here's a real option for the community. And as far as control, we don't control Roby Field, but it works really well. We have a person at the school that coordinates that now, which we never had before, and it works seamless. So I don't see what the big deal is. We have a first and we have a...
As a pediatrician, I have to say it, American Academy of Pediatrics does not like turf fields. They think there's more injuries. Now, I'm not saying I don't want them, but I will not support this motion unless it includes all the properties in Holmdel, including Cross Farm. I'm going to say it. That is a main facility for our town and our kids. So if we're going to look into putting a turf field, and I don't like SACS because I don't want to work with the Board of Ed, because I was on the opposite end and the town got the shaft with that. If I'm going to vote for this, it's on all the properties that we own. Get it? Can I be blunt? And I'm not a flip-flopper. I do what's right for the town and the people.
So there's a motion and a second, but you want to amend your motion to include all taxable properties? Or you just want to stick with SATS?
I don't know, amend it. Maybe Rocco can amend it.
I would just like,
Well, he would make the motion to amend, and you would have to accept.
I would like to make an amended motion that we look at all properties owned by the town.
I'm going to do something that's going to... Look, Rocco, it's not that I personally am against cross. It's just that I've heard from a lot of residents, and as much as I disagree with certain functionalities, personally, I would agree with Mike Nicholas that political would be such a challenge. It would be divisive, and we've lived through that. So I would prefer to stick. I'm willing to look at other properties that were centrally located, but in my heart of hearts, and not going through the town multiple times, I truly believe that the best alternative, in my opinion, is SATS. So
It's up to you if you want to amend.
I would like to continue on the SATS property. I think that's the best alternative today.
Rocco, your motion was township-owned property only, and that's not included. We don't own that.
No, he said and township.
I didn't hear that. I just heard
SATS and township.
He said
I want to look
township.
into it. I want to look into where we can put it. I mean, F&F is a place too. The Palming is a place. There's other places for turf fields.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine looking
And
outside.
I'm fine for the other place too, because the kids need what they need. I mean, I live next to the football field, and I live with it for the town. The lights are on every day on the weekend from 9 to 9, and it's for the kids. And this is for the kids. And again, Eric, it's your motion. I don't know if it's going to carry, but I would like it to say, I'm going to be blunt, whatever you think is going to pass, but I would like it to say SATS and other township property.
That's what I think you said.
Yes.
I would amend it to say SATS and all township properties excluding cross farms.
Yes.
sounds like a new motion, so.
So I'll make the motion that we,
Okay, you want to modify your original one? Just trying to keep it safe here.
that we look specifically at SATs with an open mind to other properties that would satisfy multi-use excluding cross farms.
Not gonna be okay. Not gonna be okay.
That-
No, I'm gonna vote no, but that's just me. I have to do finally what I think is right. Again, that's his motion, it's a motion on the floor, and a second, we vote on it.
I think we should vote on it, all sections. Any other comments or amendments? Motion, read the motion.
The only,
The motion
the only,
is-
don't read the motion yet. The only way I would do a feasibility study for this is to have CMA do it as our engineering firm. The only way I'm supporting it. I'm sorry, Mazer. I'm like,
So we're clear. We're gonna have Mazer Consulting do a feasibility study for a multi-purpose turf field with lights at the SATS complex or any other township-owned property other than Cross Farms Park. Okay, you got that? You hear me back there? And it's a conceptual plan only for us to consider. And if SATS is a consideration, we have to obviously consider the DEP ramifications.
Right, and again, I just want to make it clear that the SATS complex does run up against the Category 1 stream,
Right.
and it is protected by...
We'll let the engineers tell us. We'll let you.
No, but it is protected by anti-degradation laws on water quality, that the soil testing needs to be done, that there is, that the
Right.
closing procedures
Absolutely.
for the tanks there have to be exposed,
Yeah.
all that. But yes, I'll agree with Greg's motion that it's done by Mazer Consulting.
That's an amendment to, do you accept that, Eric? I mean, is that a new motion or is that an amended motion?
Greg, are you trying to amend a motion that's on the floor? I believe that Committeeman Hines put forward and was seconded by Mayor Gonzalez.
so let me re-summarize, I believe, the motion. It's to do a feasibility study for turf at all township-owned properties and the SATS facility excluding Cross Farms utilizing Mazer Consulting.
Oh, hold on. In order to be prudent with the money, if the SATS is deemed viable, I don't really think there's a need to do a township-wide study on every other property. So I think we're questioning the viability of the SATS. So I would like it worded somehow so that, if SATS is doable, then we don't need to go further than SATS.
All over the place.
That's fine. Just let it be. That's fine. Greg's motion is fine.
Give it a second.
Second.
That amendment?
Yeah.
You want to reread it, Maureen, so you have it right?
Okay.
Do you need to include the high school?
Is that the motion is to have Mazer, as a consulting engineer, perform a feasibility study for a multi-use field at SAT School and other township facilities.
Excluding cross.
Excluding
Cross Farm Park. I have that.
Second. Motion second.
It's motioned and
And
seconded.
I'd like to call for a roll call on that motion.
Mr. Buontempo.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci.
No.
Mr. Nicholas.
Yes.
Mayor Fratelli.
Yes, with one comment. Okay. There's no sickness and obsession with developing Cross Farms Park. We made that obvious in the last 11 minutes. Thank you. So we have a motion and it's passed.
Okay.
Any other public comment, since that was done during public? Public is still open.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Well, we got Mike Sokol in the back.
Mike Sokol, 6 Wildridge Lane. First of all, I really would have appreciated that if this was the intention of the Township Committee to talk about utilization of school property, that you guys would have come to us and said, well, now we'd like to try to have some sort of, research or some sort of survey, because it is our property. We've had discussions on this for about 2 years. We are in the midst of a $40 million referendum project that involves development in the land that you're talking about to be putting a recreational facility.
Can I stop you there, Mike?
I'm sorry?
Can I stop you there? I don't
Yeah,
believe.
go ahead, Jim.
I don't believe that it'll interfere with any of the recreation improvements that are being done to the back of the school.
No, well, we've had discussions with our engineers, Tom, and in fairness, we do have a pretty good understanding
Mike,
of the
that's-
setup of this
The other thing
particular
else-
project.
Mike, we had multiple meetings with the Board of Ed, myself and Tom Cortelli, the administration, the president Joe Hammer, President Vicki Flynn.